All right, welcome to a Nyobi members only video, a video review of Batman. Not even Batman, because it's not Batman, it's Absolute Batman, a different Batman in a different reality, which is something I still have to work my brain into accepting. Okay. Not that we haven't seen Elseworld Batmans before, but this one's a little different. I Starting off, by the way, welcome to this video, all three members, and hopefully new members who might drop in who want to see my take on this. And it's kind of weird. I'd never read Absolute Batman before. This is my first foray into any of the Absolute series that's going on with DC Comics. And of course, like many, I think I picked it up because of all the controversy and polarization that surrounds this issue. And I just had to see for myself what this was all about. And I did. This is written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson. And I'm not really familiar with Daniel Warren Johnson. I've heard the name plenty of times, but I don't read a lot of books lately, a lot of comic books. And I read 3 last night, this being on top of the pile. I'm going to be doing more of these reviews, by the way. Some of them are going to be member only. Some of them will be public access. Some of them will be in the form of shorts, like just a quick blurb of what I thought on something. This one deserves a little bit more attention. We're not going to make this overly long, but a little bit more attention. Did I like the book? Yes. And I don't know why that was so hard for me to say, because there's things I like about the book and things that I don't like, but the things that I don't like is because of my preconception of who Batman is and what Batman to me is supposed to be. So, if I was judging this as a Batman story, no, I wouldn't like it because everything this guy does is completely out of character for Batman. But it's not Batman, right? This is absolute Batman. It's in a different time, in a different reality, different Batman, different upbringing, different everything. Okay. Like he uses his bat symbol as a battle axe. You know what I'm saying? This Batman, by the way, loves fire. He's like worse than Beavis. So Beavis and Butthead. This Batman absolutely, I think, loves fire. And you'll see that throughout this issue. But basically, this is a throwback, a flashback of a young Bruce Wayne talking with his father, essentially about world events and violence that's happening in the world, And basically, Batman's dad tells Bruce that, all you can do is just be the best that you can be, do your best to, you know, your small part, whatever that may be. And that's kind of a theme that's going to be throughout this issue. And it starts off kind of like with Batman. He's at not a pawn shop, but kind of like an old dingy military surplus store, but this place sells weapons and flamethrowers and grenades and all sorts of stuff. And Bruce Wayne is in there just stocking up on this stuff. You know what I mean? And there's a commotion that's happening outside. And Bruce goes out there, and there's some good old boys, if you will, because Bruce is on the outskirts of the city, outside of Gotham, and they are, beating up an immigrant, right? They're beating up an undocumented alien. Well, I shouldn't even say that because I don't know who is undocumented. I don't know if they even touch upon that in the book. But Batman goes in to save this guy. However, Batman is ambushed by the good old boys he was sort of buying his gear from. And essentially, they kick the crap out of Batman because Batman is outnumbered and he's overwhelmed. Okay. Batman comes back after Batman gets his ass kicked and he's let go. Essentially, he does return in full absolute Batman fashion. He goes to this place where there's an immigrant camp called a Slaughter Swamp, if I do remember this right. And Batman raises unholy hell against these good old boys and police officers who are in on this, in dismantling and causing mass violence at this camp. Okay. Batman's way of dealing with this is more violence. Now, traditional Batman would also interfere in this. Not saying he wouldn't, but I think traditional Batman would have handled this a lot differently than absolute Batman. For one, traditional Batman, he may break arms. He may break your nose, he may hurt you severely. But one thing that Batman doesn't do, because this is sort of the superhero motto, is kill. I don't think absolute Batman gives a damn about killing, because here's the thing. Here's my summary of absolute Batman, and this is just based off of one issue. Like, he can completely have a different character arc, and maybe he's a different dude now, because this is like, a flashback to Batman. But if people were to say, LP, how would you summarize absolute Batman based on what you know thus far in one sentence? Well, that's easy. This is, what if Batman became the Punisher? Because the Punisher, loves extreme violence, right? Frank Castle, come on, right? He's a Punisher. He wears a skull on his chest. He goes after those dirty cops. He goes after, cartels, gangs, mafia types, criminals. And he would go after racists too. I'm sure he would, especially if they're attacking an immigrant camp, right? Like the Ku Klux Klan or something. Well, absolute Batman is no different. But absolute Batman brings violence to a whole new level. He is breaking arms. He's breaking faces. I'm sure, and I don't know if they flat out say that Batman killed in that issue, but it looks like Batman kills in that issue. The way he pummels one guy is like Rajah Jackson in wrestling, he takes a flamethrower and just like burns the shit out of people, and he runs into this priest, by the way. He's an important part of this whole story, is Father Peters. And Father Peters is about peace. Yes, Father Peters does not like what's going on with the immigrant camp, and he's trying to make reason with these good old boys, because many of them went to his church when they were younger. He knows them, their whole lives. He knows their parents, the whole nine. I think he even knows Batman's dad. Spoiler. But he's there trying to be the peacemaker, and Batman's having none of it. Batman's like, you do things your way, I'm going to do things my way, and we're going to fight fire, literally with fire, because some people would say, turn the other cheek. Batman certainly doesn't turn the other cheek. Not this Batman. This Batman's going to backhand your left cheek, backhand your right cheek, and then, poke you in the eyes and knee you in the gut. That's what this Batman is going to do. This Batman does not give two shits until the very end. Because after Batman, unleashes fury, and by fury I mean the biggest Tonka truck you've ever seen in your life, supposedly to be the new Batmobile. This is like more like the mobile Bat Fortress of armor. He rolls in, with this Tonka truck. It's unreal what this absolute Batman will do. And after Batman basically cleans out, the bad guys, and he's like pummeling one dude, and Batman's on the verge of killing him, Father Peters tells Batman that, there has to be a better way. And Batman's like, why are you trying to save these guys? And Father Peters is like, because this is what I do. Because Father Peters believes in a world where violence is not always the answer, and it shouldn't be. But in absolute Batman's mind and perspective, it seems to be that violence is the only answer. But I think at the end of the issue, he starts to think a little bit differently. But I don't know how much that carries over, because from what I hear in the regular series, he's just as vicious. What I found about this book was it was a quick read, right? And that's why I'll say I like it. Because I found myself reading it from cover to cover without having to take a break, without stopping, without having to put it down. And that is a mark of a good book, right? Where I was reading Savage Land Rogue, and it took me 3 attempts to get through the book. Not with Daniel Warren Johnson. And that's just in the writing, right? It's smooth, it's clean, it's a page turner. You will go through it. The art carries the book. This art looks like something you would see out of The Dark Knight Returns. It's got that sort of vibe, right? It's also got this heavy metal vibe, this dark dystopian future vibe, just the way it's colored and sort of, Batman and his large proportions, his larger than life demon. And that's how some people refer to him, as like the demon. There's a whole backstory called Sanctuary, which is worth reading as well. We're not covering that. Might touch upon that another time. We're just talking about the main story here. It's already, by the way, picking up a lot of steam. Probably sold out in many places, and I know that it's going for around $30 US now a pop on eBay right now. This issue. And I happen to pick up one of the variants. I don't actually have the cover that you see here. I have a cover where it's kind of like a thicker cardstock and it's yellow and it's got Batman on it. But if they have one of the regular covers, I might pick it up just to flip. But I like the art, and I like the fact that I was able to get through the book in one go. Sometimes the comic books, it's a chore. It really, really is, What I don't like is that this guy's not a hero. Flat out, this guy, though heart in the right place, is a psychopath. Batman, the real Batman, would have to come and stop this guy. Because even though he's doing good things by stopping, a whole camp of people from being violently hurt or even killed, he takes it to the extremes, where the real Batman would find another way. Violence still may be a part of it, but not to the extent of flamethrowers and things of that nature. This Batman, like I said, is the Punisher of Batman. So I'm going to give it a 3.5. No, how am I going to do a ranking system? We need to come up with a ranking system. I'm going to rank things out of 10, and I'm going to give it a 7.5. It loses points because he's not a hero. It loses points because of my own bias of who I think Batman is. But it gains all the points for being compelling, being polarizing, getting people talking, being a quick read, being visually kind of stunning to look at. Absolute Batman fans, I'm sure, are going to be very happy with this. Will this make me an absolute Batman fan? I don't know. I would have to see more, right, to really judge this character and compare him to Batman, the real Batman, the not the 616 Batman, but whatever the equivalent is in DCU, Earth Prime, whatever they call it. But I might pick up a future issue of Batman. My problem is that I wish I would have gotten in on this if I was going to cover Absolute Batman from the ground floor, right? Like starting with issue 1. And I didn't. I don't have any of them except for this. Now, I'm pretty sure that this was written, I'm glad it was written in this way, to bring people who have never read the book before into the book without needing to really know too much. And they successfully have done that. I feel like I know a little bit about this character now, more than I did before. I see a couple different players involved, such as Father Peters, and I'm hoping and wondering if he's not going to be the guy that sort of, calms this Batman down a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see if I find some of these issues. I know they're probably going for a fair amount of money now, especially first prints, and I'm a first print guy. But we'll see what I can find. Of course, maybe pick it up in a trade or read it online. But I would recommend the book for a couple of reasons. One, let's just start off with the obvious. It's so polarizing and captivating in many ways that I knew it was going to be a money book, right? In the sense that people are going to flip this book. It's probably going to sell out. So just from a standard, quick flip or maybe even an investment thing, because it is also the origins of this new Batmobile, this Tonka truck. Pick it up for that. If you're a fan of Daniel Warren Johnson and the art style, definitely pick it up for that. If you like Batman with a Dark Knight vibe, pick it up for that, because you're going to get all that. But if you don't like seeing Batman in the way that you remember, like a Dan Jurgens Batman, then this may not be for you. 7.5 on the Richter scale. That's what we're going to label this. I'm glad that you guys have tuned in for this members only video. And stay tuned for more comic book reviews as I go through my pile real soon. Peace.